Hello, Mia.
Hello, darling.
Thanksgiving's in 2 days, and a lot of people are really not looking forward to it. Like, you know, obviously, pandemic, social distancing, lockdown, financial stress, relationship stress, work stress, political instability, and I want to kind of give people a sense of how we can navigate in a way that not only gets us through it intact, but really like we can use it to become wiser, kinder, more effective stewards of the planet.
So, you were talking about the image of the guy on the surfboard, was it yesterday?
Yeah.
So, what comes to mind for me is once again flexibility and how tradition is all kind of like carved in stone. This is how we do it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So um, I think I try to make a list of what Thanksgiving is about, like at its best. Like, we leave out the historical, issues with it and just say like, a civilization that celebrates harvest um, at its best. What does that consist of? And I think it's three things. It's tradition, as you said, like honoring tradition is a good thing in a certain way. And you say if it becomes very rigid and unbending, it can break, just like the person lock-kneed on the surfboard. The second is community, so it's a coming together, right? Know that we need each other. We're pack animals, we're herd animals, we are in relation. And the third is gratitude. So when I think about tradition, so I think, like you can always get caught up on the details. Like, hey, we always have a pumpkin pie and we're not having a pumpkin pie this year. Or, Aunt Tilly always comes and she can't come this year because of the coronavirus. But if we go down a few levels, I think we can get to a place of where we can always honor the tradition. And I think the tradition of the American Thanksgiving, like any sort of indigenous celebration, is about humans adapting to their environments. It's about where are we? What do we have? How do we share it equitably among the group in a way that honors the earth, honors our covenant to this place where we're living, the land that is supporting us. And as things change, we change. So you don't make the pecan pie if your pecan tree got struck by lightning, right? The tradition is not the pecan pie. The tradition is we see what is nourishing us in our environment and we make use of it and give thanks. So that's like the other part is like this part of gratitude. So if tradition is about making do and adapting as human beings, like that's the best of us, is that we can adapt to any environment. And the worst of us is that when we insist our environments adapt to us. So, it's kind of a two-way street. So I think for this Thanksgiving, let's go back to that idea of, okay, we're in this environment. We've got a pandemic that was caused by human civilization encroaching on nature, on animals, leading to spreads of vectors, to a global civilization that has so much interconnection in superficial ways that the virus can spread very easily and can decimate populations throughout the world. Like, can we come back to a tradition of us being informed by the land and adapting to it and fulfilling our ecological role in the grand web of life, as opposed to ripping that web apart because it doesn't fit our narcissistic desires to be on top of everything. So I think that's one thing I'd like us to take from this Thanksgiving. I wonder what your thoughts are.
Well, for me, what comes to mind is that the original Thanksgiving, who knows really what the original Thanksgiving was, but the idea behind it was that we are honoring the Native people who shared their knowledge and their resources with us to help us make it through that first year, first winter. I don't know exactly what it was. And what comes to mind this year is all the healthcare workers.
Hmm. Yeah, to think about who are we excluding, right? So that goes to the second thing, community, right? So a harvest festival is about bringing in the sheaves and bringing in all the people.
Yeah.
And in a working civilization, everybody's needed. In our society, it turns out most of us are not needed. Most of us, we need the money, but our work, like, oh my God, what is the world going to do without my, weekly videos? I'm like, the world doesn't need us. And so it's extremely alienating. And so when we think about, oh my God, there are people out there whom we have been neglecting systematically, whether it's essential workers in food service and manufacturing, in healthcare, like, let's use this time to bring them into our consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to go a step beyond that. And like this is an opportunity, I think, to be back in touch with the larger than human community. So, right, we're in this mess because we think of humans, bipeds, as the only us's, and everything else is out there and separate and ripe for exploitation. So if you don't have family, can you get out and look at the sky, look at clouds? Maybe if there's a clear night, check out the stars. Go find a tree, see some squirrels chittering in your yard, and like invite them in your mind into community. Because we're not going to solve this problem just as humans separate from the world. I think we're going to solve this problem again, that idea of tradition, of adapting back into the world. And the world has its agenda, and when we ignore it, when we don't notice, oh, the tree's dropping its leaves, and we don't pay attention to, boy, the squirrels look very agitated today, or the wind is blowing, like all that is relevant to us. And we've created a bubble around ourselves through our civilization that has made it irrelevant, or has led us to think that it's irrelevant. So I think the second thing I want us to try to do this Thanksgiving is, if we can't have our regular human community, to see where we can bring in the larger than human community that we call nature, to separate it from ourselves. But if we think about it as this is the community where we have always been embedded in, and can help inform and guide and define us.
Yeah, and I like the idea actually of what comes to mind for me again is that this holiday thing and this tradition, where the tradition is that we come together on this day as a family and we do X, Y, and Z. And then, especially around Christmas time, people are dropping into severe depression because, oh my goodness, so and so is not around anymore, and so, I'm not near my family, and I have a feeling that that might also be an issue this Thanksgiving. People feeling, incredible sadness about not being with family, and inviting people to think about this as just another normal day, and we can give gratitude every single day, for all the things that we do have, um, but finding it into your heart to look at this tradition and say, this was at its base, at its core, this was about giving gratitude. And then all the other things kind of got piled on top. And now it's this we are doing this as a family and this is how it's done. And we can break it all back down to its core and say, this is about giving thanks and honoring those who helped us get this far. And instead of making this, poor us who cannot, be with family, oh, look at how we can, look at all the wonderful ways that we can show our gratitude.
Mm. Yeah, and I think of gratitude as acknowledging that we didn't deserve this. Right? Like, when I give $10 to the clerk and they give me my package that I just paid for, I'm like, thank you so much. I'm like, yeah, I'm entitled to this. I just paid you. And yet, what have I ever done to deserve breath, to deserve the hug of gravity on this incredible planet, to deserve the opportunities that I got, to deserve being born into an upper middle class family of privilege that had the money and means and programming to send me to an elite university that was going to teach me how to make money and be a master of the universe. None of that has anything to do with anything that I did or deserved. And I think there's a way, though, in which we can beat ourselves up over gratitude. Be grateful. How can you not be? Yes, things are terrible, but be grateful. And I wanted to make sure we don't get into that either. So for me, about gratitude is about two things. It's about right now. It's about tapping into this sense of I'm not special. I didn't create this. This is all grace, to use a Christian term. This is all bestowed, and wow. Not even have to say thank you, not even to say, but just wow. Maybe wow is better than gratitude, because gratitude is you can make it very performative. This is how I morally respond to you. This is how I'm a good person. But wow is just wow. And the second thing is, I think we can hold that wow at the same time as we recognize and really feel and acknowledge and mourn the loss of what we didn't have this year, of what we don't have this year. Because I think I can have gratitude for the ability to be disappointed, to be upset, to be scared, because all of those negative emotions mean that I can discern that something is wrong, something is missing. If I couldn't, if I was in some sort of science fiction movie and they just kept giving me a pill and oh, everything's great, everything's fine, I would have no agency. So the ability to feel loss and sadness and anger and rage and frustration and outrage and all of those negative emotions, at its core, those all provide us with the agency to change, the agency to say, I can take steps in my own little sphere of influence to create a different experience, a different world, a different community, different traditions. So rather than using oh, I should be grateful, right? I'm very, suspicious of any sentence that has the word should in it. But to just notice the wow of the universe just existing without my having to do anything to make it exist, and an appreciation of my discernment of the gap, so that I recognize that I do have the power to change, because I can feel the gap between what is and what could be.
I think that's a wrap.
We wrapped? Wait, but I haven't done the thing yet.
What thing is that?
That's the like and subscribe thing. That's when I dance on the stripper pole. Hey everybody, if you like this video, won't you please click the little hearty button?
If you don't, we're gonna keep riffing on Thanksgiving and gratitude, and we can.
Yep, we're gonna do all your auto scroll is all gonna be just right. Click the little plusy thing. If you like this video, if you like this channel, if you appreciate and get some value, you can subscribe and then click the bell for notifications. And that
And have a
way,
great Thanksgiving.
yeah, yeah. Um, Thank you for reminding me of that. So, as you said, that's a wrap. Mia, darling, thank you so much for facilitating. And I will see you in about a minute and a half.
Bye,
And
guys.
and everybody else, thanks for watching.